Thank you very much. I am Lamin Jai and this is News Review, wherever you may be watching us from. Coming up on the show today, Christians in the country hold a press conference to state their position on the rejected draft constitution. We have a report, an excerpt of the press conference that was held earlier today. The mayor of Kanifing Municipality, Mayor Talib Ahmed Bensouda, has also launched a cold storage facility built at the Serekunda market for vegetable vendors there. Clearing and forwarding agents have begun a strike. Jaga Sise Jaite has been monitoring. Nyang Jai is my guest today. These and more coming up, but first we'll quickly look at what the papers are saying. Today we have the Point newspaper and then also the Foria newspaper. We'll begin with the Point and see what they are saying. New UK High Commissioner hailed for robust stance on press freedom. EU concerned by Gambia's sluggish reform process. Academic crisis looming in Gambia. Government says it's not barring people from attending Magal. So, according to the Point, prominent and well-known Senegambians in Europe welcomed the appointment of His Excellency David Belgrove, OBE, the new High Commissioner of the United Kingdom to the Gambia, describing it as excellent news. EU concerned by Gambia's sluggish reform process. In statement delivered by High Representative or Vice President, if you like, Joseph Borrell, on the current political situation in the country, the European Union acknowledges its pivotal role in supporting the Gambia's democratic transition. However, it further admits slow pace of progress in the entire reform project. Academic crisis looming in Gambia. S.R. Sow, Deputy Secretary General of the Gambia Teachers Union, has warned that a potential academic crisis is looming in the Gambia if action is not taken. This he said emanates from no indication of government seriousness to commit funds to ensure when schools are declared open, they could be done safely as required. Also on the Point, the Gambia government has said that contrary to suggestions decidedly aimed at twisting its previous statement on movement between the Gambia and Senegal, it has no intentions of barring people in the Gambia from attending the annual Magal pilgrimage in Senegal. In fact, I think the Magal there is today. Also on the Point, IEC confirms NUP as new political party. The Independent Electoral Commission has confirmed the registration of National Unity Party as the latest political party to be registered in the country. The Independent Electoral Commission hereby notifies the general public that having met the requirement for registration under Section 105 of the Electoral Act 2019 as amended, a new party called National Unity Party, NUP, has this 5th day of October, that's on Monday, been duly registered as bona fide party. Let's see what Foroya is saying quickly. Government urged to take lead in building national consensus around future direction of Gambia's democratic transition. That's still on the EU press release there. Gambia government dismisses rumor about Magal. I think that's also captured by the Point. IEC registers new political party. Permanent Secretary Buba Sanyang briefs parliamentarians on Salaji land dispute. Others. So according to the Foria newspaper, the European Union Monday called on the government to take the necessary lead in building the necessary national consensus around the future direction of the Gambia's democratic transition with a new constitution at its core. I mean, pretty much, I think that's all we have for you on the papers today. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. Welcome back. So the mayor of Kanifing Municipality, Talib Ahmed Bensouda, has launched a cold storage facility built at the Serekunda market for vegetable women vendors who operate at the market there. The launching came at a rally-like meeting or event, if you like, held at the Serekunda market. More in this report.
The Kanifing Municipal Council, under the leadership of Talib Ahmed Bensouda, launched the cold storage project for vegetable sellers at the Serekunda market. Storage facility has been a major problem in the market for years, but this initiative will go a long way in preserving their vegetables.
Today to stand in front of you here to inaugurate this magnificent facility here, which is of immense importance to the women of Serekunda market. My fellow councillors are here also present. The vendors of the women vendors in Serekunda market here are present. All observed. Today marks another important day in the history of KMC. True. Today we are inaugurating a facility that is, first of its kind in the history of the entire community or in the entire country. There is no market in the entire Gambia that had a cold storage facility installed for the women of Serekunda or of that particular market to store their perishable goods that are on sale. If they are not finished, store them there. So thank you to the British High Commission for providing this facility through the support of the Women Councillor, Honorable Binamaro. This is a structure that as it looks, the interior is special. You can store your things inside. Everything is in solar. It's not consuming electricity. It's all solar. So it's cost free on you guys. And also, Serekunda market has benefited immensely under the leadership of this present council. So many development projects have taken place in Serekunda markets here, and many more are coming. Our Lord Mayor Talib Bensouda is not a leader that will always give promise and keep people waiting. Whenever he speaks, know that the project is already done and is on the way coming.
This project will go a long way in helping the women in preserving their vegetables. This is the first cold storage for vegetables in any market in the Gambia. Your Excellency, the women of this market highly appreciated your assistance that you once again. Your Excellency, we have several community-based projects, and we hope that this will be one of several projects to be funded by the British High Commission.
Musu Metamane, a representative of the women beneficiaries, expressed satisfactory words as they have been facing challenges in the market due to the lack of storage facilities, as most of their goods are perishable goods.
Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin alhamdulillah rabbil alamin menna me yo ba kontaan na men kala talbe ben sudati
mone ngel gana mi ko yo ko xamantene moy lord me o habe talib ben suda
anana ñol be
ak mbolo mi mo anda ñep
ani British High Commissioner
ak suñu ambassadeur British High Commissioner di ko gërëm di ko sant
mbebe kontaan na
neena mo ngi leen di gërëm di ko sant
menna maket master kontaan na men kala mon njaaji
demi wato suñu maket master Modou Ndiaye
me paja bi kontaan na Marcelo president
demi wato alhaji fone banga sama pa go paja bi
me KMC be kontaan na
demi wato wa KMC
menna diba kundala kansulo kontaan na
demi wato suñu kansulo mi nga xamantene moy suñu jaadik kansulo diba kunda Dramé Kandji am ko tay
mbe kansulo kontaan na Lamin Jammeh
mone ngene kansulo Lamin Jammeh
mbe kansulo be kontaan na Matikani be kontaan na
demi wat kansulo ñep demi wat lañu kansulo Matikani
ma fa alhamdulillah rabbil alamin
di ko sant Yàlla subhanahu wa ta'ala
ma fa talibe ya baraka
mone kon lord me mo ngi wax ne jërëjëf
bar Serekunda mu sol fana mba fa la baraka ala baraka
mu ñu wax jigéen Serekunda tamit jërëjëf
ba on kontaan ta bakele
parce que tay kam mom des ndektel ñu kontaan nañ woon
kabrinda dindi mbey marché oto
mom alhamdulillah depuis temps bi mo nek ndaw mu ci biir marché
bar fali mo men ngaaje ñi marché oto ñi waati ñi nan sango mais wala jamano la
waaye jamono ame talib ben soda wecce ko bi mo gisee marché Serekunda musu fi am dëgg la
namanaje
mu ne loolu musu fi am
folo Serekunda mu sol kontaan da
mu ne ngel ben jigéen Serekunda kontaan nañ
ba marché be Sénégal la be Sénégal
parce que marché mom mu ngi set wecc béré bu yépp mu ngi set
adu jaata kende kana Sénégal ko
e gu yaram munta am gannaaw set
oton se wota bakele
mu ne kon def na ci loolu
barani bi mba fala me ko
musumeta boo gisee loolu am dal bi ben suuda moo ñëw kenn ci setu wecc weeri kenn
kontanta Serekunda mu sol kontanta
mu ne kontaan na loolu jigéen Serekunda kontaan nañ loolu
mbe mu sol tentu la fana mbe jeyla
mu ne kon mu ngi gërëm jigéen yi di ko di leen sant bu baax
bawo ñimbe asunda Serekunda mu sol le
mu ne lii yëpp sababu jigéen Serekunda la
ni amoy musumeta ndamanke fenti
mu ne boo déggee musumeta kon alhamdulillah
Serekunda mu sol ala ni wolu
waaye gannaaw yàlla jigéen Serekunda ñoo nekk ci gannaaw moo tax ñu mel nii
walla ben koma walla mbambu walla ben koma
mu ne ñoo nekk ci mu ne ñoo nekk ci gannaaw ñoo ko boot
sama walla Serekunda mu sol ji mbambu mamboy
mu ne jigéen Serekunda ñoo ko boot moo tax daanu
ni wulta somande wuli ni wulta sutoy
mu ne bu ñu jógee suba mu jóg bu ñu jógee guddi mu jóg
oto mbe Serekunda mu sol tentu la mbe jeyla
mu ne kon mu ngi gërëm jigéen Serekunda bu baax
mbendo ko kontona farmata bayo
mu ne di ko gërëm Fatoumata Bayo rakam
mbe mo be kontona
di gërëm ñëpp
mba fala me ko
mu ne kon mu ngi wax meew ne
alhamdulillah men na ya katam materam makuti bari kontanta la
mu
bayo
ne meew sant na yàlla lool ci sa jëf ci rafet parce que nga ñu indi fi def ñu bekk loolu
barama mo ne fanade
waaye alhamdulillah ñu tamit
ba ngala da dindin la mu ñinti
waaye xam nañ ne ndaw la boo xamante ne
dindi nga me yalon ko
mu ne xale la boo xam ne
Gambia mu solu
mu ne jigéen Gambie yi
na kumboda
mu ne seen place bu ñu mébét na
akawo ñini le na jaaya bunda fa
mu ne taalib su xëyee dafay wuti jigéen Gambia fekk foo xamante ne moom la ñu jooyatu mu wuti foofu mu foog seen xonk
adu non sula da men na somanda
mu ne lépp la ñoo soxla suba rek
janni wularo kanale
mu ne balaa jant mu sow rek fekk am nañ ko
asimo ni kine ya ñini kan lafta men nga
mu ne
fa
toujours dafay ñëw dafay yónni nit ñi di laaj te jigéen marché lan mooy seen mébét
oto na ñinati be amantere
mu ne kon su indee lii tey moom daanaka bettu ñu
adu mbe yillar ndoma men ni
mu
manki
ne fu mu nekk nañu ni seen bu leneen loo xamante ne du bii
mba tantu la mba jeyla
mu ne kon loolu ne ñu ngi lay gërëm di la sant
musol ko wa filal be janne
mu ne jaaykat yi ñu ngi fii
ñewa filal be jam
jaaykat yi jën yi ñu ngi fii
suba wa filal be jam
jaaykat yi buy ñu ngi fii
suba wa sipa sipa wa filal be
mu ne
jam
jaaykat yi sipa sipa tamit ñu ngi fii
mboso wa filal be jam
mu ne jaaykat yi yoxoos tamit ñu ngi fii
ibebe me koma
mu ne ñoom ñëpp ñu ngi ci gannaaw meew
na wuta kabrin somanda
soo jógee suba taal
ibebe wullin
mu ne
fatile
ñoom
koy
ñëpp dañoo jóg dañoo yëngatu
nin ke ba musaka furin
mu ne
ke
góor a jigéen mag ak ndaw
woto ko mba fala me ko
kon mu ngi wax meew ne
ñing konte na ñing
mu ne konte na bii
lafta do fanala me ni nyimman kili
ko nañ leneen lu dul bi tamit
ba so si bor ñañe sala fa bu sola
fas mo daw so ko caaw mu gëna yow
la fa frigo la me alon ko
ko nañ benen frigo bo xamantene
ñewa filalu ko wa filalu subu wa filalu
ne jaay kati jeni jaay kati ko jaay kati yapp
sipa wa filalu
jaay kati sipa yi
ibe sila fa ko je
ñom ñep suñu jaay ba ngonde ñu mëna denc seen bopp
mo la fa kana tinya
ko defé bagage kenn du yakko
mo la fa kana tinya
da ngay gis ne ben bagage du yakko
ñu no mu fruto lati
ne li kay mom ay fruit la
fruto tinya la marsa ko no ko
ne
take
ben fruit du fi di yakko
na dia ta Allah taala
ne sobe yalla inshallah
ala ben suda barako
ne ci barak ben suda
na do la ben sude
ne ñu koy ñu la ñaanal
ay commissiona
ak hay commissioner
ñu ko fa commento ala kana nasi
ya rabbal alamin
ala ma yiru ala ala ma pa so taala nyako ala ma sa okala ye ngadu ala mobe ngadu ala gambia be baraka dinde manso na kara falima ala be suda buta
The British High Commissioner, His Excellency David Belgrove, also gave his statement as this project was funded by them.
Your Worship, Lord Mayor, distinguished panel guests, this is my first public event in the Gambia, and I'm very pleased it is with you at Serekunda Market today. I can't think of a better place to be. This project is a very innovative project. It is part of our response because we understand how hard it has been for the market women during this pandemic. We understand that you have lost business because of the pandemic, and this is part of my government's effort to help the economic recovery of the Gambia from this pandemic. What I like about this project is that it is powered by sunshine. It is sustainable, you don't need to buy diesel, and it will help you store your products in a cool environment. So I'm very pleased that we can help you do that.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I would also like to thank the Mayor and the councillors for working with us on this project. It is really good to see it come to a conclusion and to be at this opening today. But most of all, I would like to thank you all for the very generous welcome that you've given me today here in the market.
Thank you.
And I look forward to seeing more of you in the future and look forward to working with the Mayor on future projects. Thank you very much indeed.
In another development, His Worship Talib Ahmed Bensouda expressed gratitude to the British High Commissioner and also promised to make a lot of developments in all the markets in KM.
Auzubillahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.
Waalaikum salam warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.
Waalaikum salam warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.
Mange nuyu di welcome His Excellency Ambassador David Belgrove.
Dari me ko se abate ale be ngir jimbake ana lu ko ko wala nyame na ambassador me ala kare ma berim tejam
Mange nuyu imami dekabi ak alkali dekabi.
akabe sa ta wala ba ko danna ana alkali ba
maa ngi nuyu suñ women councilor Bine Marong su ma ko nuyu naa councilor yi maa ngi nuyu suñ market président Mr Jabi ak executive yi marché bi maa ngi nuyu ñu nga xam ne ñooy suma tànka ak loxo si marché bi mooy market committee chairman Lamin Jammeh ak market manager Modou Ndiaye maa ngi nuyu ku nga xam ne mooy mayor bi fii biir Serekunda market mooy suma yaay mooy suma bët mooy suma noppa mooy mbaa musu medda man maa ngi nuyu suma doom yi mooy démocratie groupe akabe ko ni jolu kon na ben ma dingol di ben mo démocratie maa ngi nuyu King Damfa ak One Serekunda Market Committee akabe King Damfa kon na ani Serekunda Market Committee maa ngi nuyu waa Marseille yëpp ak jigéeni Marseille yëpp maa leen di sant di leen gërëm akabe Marseille si dal be kon na miska borom ke di ñu ko ba kal ko kali tay bu ma campagne di ut place bi ako kabrabe campagne la be ñu ko la ñu kam yéen waa Serekunda yaa leen ma boot ako tan Serekunda ko ya kale ya bandu be pare du ma noppaleku ako ñu fana ma ne fene ngin be Serekunda market develop inshallah so pour ka je ko te da hala fana Serekunda ma da yi wata comme nu ma ko waxoon buñ nekkoon Brikama garage ako kamera fa ñu tamit Brikama garage ko nañ def bek Serekunda marché mel ni Barcelona ako ya fa mi ndaw Serekunda marché ko jël ka ke Barcelona bi kon projet bi ako dañu projet to ak projet yu ñëwoon yépp ana projet ko mel be bina mosal la rek ako mel be tamit na ñi wol be mo fini ko di du ba fa ko wale on the inshallah 2021 ako ban na dia dala ma ala ala ma be yaakaar naa ne di ngeen gis lu nga xam ne mosu leen koo gis fii wante comme duñ lee waxee rek benn suura du dee wax du ma dee promise man dama def ngeen gis inshallah suñu yàlla may wér gu yaram mais ñu kàttan 2021 na nekk historique ya biir Serekunda marché ako 2021 Serekunda koru ko ala ko na ñaabodi nal melo tambe be dal waaw pour ñëw tey si suñ projet bi ako kana na bi projet ko bi maa ngi wax suñ ambassadeur thank you very much akaba fa na do ndamba ambassadeur baraka moom kañ def na yëpp ako ya be rek xam naa ne suma yaay sax moom mu ngi si légumes yi ak yeneen lekka yi su naaj bi tàngee bu bari daf dee yaaw kon jigéen bu nga xam ne yaa ngi amee kër am ay doom di leen fayal school yaahu te boobu lu garaaw la moo tax waa British High Commission bi di liggéey ak suñu able councilor Bine Marong ñu cold storage da nga gis ne bagage yi jigéen yi du gaaw a yàqu wante comme market président nu mu ko waxee Mr Ambassador jaaykati jën yaa ngi fi ne ak jaaykati yàpp soo ñu mënee jàppale boobu tey nañ kontaan tam pour partenaire ak yéen wante di wax waa KMC mi ngi am 19 market ako KMC marché tamane ko ndere so inshallah nañ def dara ci marché yépp ako nadia ratana marché de façon marché ak fene kala ji wonde Serekunda ako bar Serekunda moy capital ako jangam capital moo tax fii la ñoo doore ako yodo ma dak la jang ma leen di santaat di leen gërëm abal tentu la kam jey abal tentu la bal jey baraka ala baraka.
According to the constructor Papa Sani, 615,800 was spent to build this project. For the Fetty News Review, I am Mati Senghor.
TAF Africa Global presents the new Tulip Gardens. TAF Tulip Gardens is set to comprise service plots in sizes ranging from 220 to 570 meters square. Deposit as low as $83,600 is only an 18-month interest-free payment plan with only 20% deposit on the service plots. Please contact 376-2333 or 776-2333. TAF Africa Global.
Very well. I'm now joined by Nyanjai, political, he's a commentator, a general commentator. He comments on almost everything. Sanyang, thank you for joining me.
Well, it's a pleasure, and good afternoon, viewers, and good day, good morning, wherever you are in a part of the world.
First, give me your opinion. I know this has been rumbling since it happened, the flopping, if you like, or the fumbling of the draft constitution. You are someone who's been observing keenly. What did you make of the idea or the fact members of the National Assembly rejected the charter?
Thank you. Very pertinent question. I think if nothing was wrong, we would not have called for a transition which allowed us to vote in a new president. It was a vote of no confidence for the last administration. So we decided we need a transition. What is a transition? Change from what was to what ought to be over a period so that we can go back to normalcy. Key amongst these things is a constitution. So Gambia needed to usher a third republic. Hence the reason we all say the new Gambia, including the president himself. You cannot have a new Gambia without a new constitution. The president campaigned on that as part of his transitional reform agenda. And after that, we received a lot of funding to make sure we draft a constitution and allow the population to have consensus around it so that we can have a document adopted and owned by the polity. We went around the world looking for funds, and we had funds. What this constitution lacked, the draft lacked, is a bona fide sponsor. What is a sponsor? Someone who takes the document, claims ownership, and fights for the survival of the document. This current government and administration made this document a destitute, made this document an orphan, because they provided the document to the parliament without the requisite support it needed to be taken seriously. What happened? Personal political agenda superseded the collective good. And Gambia collectively will pay for this. Why? The document we have today that people were jubilating, the 1997 Constitution, had draconian laws that a lot of people suffer, including the media. Criminal laws, libel and other things that made people to be criminalized without being criminal. Yes. What did we do? We shoved the draft that was going to give us a more equitable and a liberal society and a better social contract for the people to opt for what we fought for and said enough of that. The controversy and the paradox is selfishness by people who should make this country better, our political class.
But here is the strange or the interesting thing about this entire issue. This is the government that promised to deliver on this piece of promise. And you are saying it didn't receive the backing or the support from this very government that promised to deliver this. Why that twist? Well, that dramatic twist?
There is no dramatic twist. It's an intentional, deliberate twist to change the narrative. The narrative was, we will elect a president who will manage a transition. And in managing the transition, he will be an arbiter, a referee, a neutral party to make sure that there is no political or vested economic interest in him to defer, slow down the people's will for a new republic. We had many transitional pillars, Janneh Commission, TRRC, CRC. The moment he decided to extend his welcome based on what he campaigned, that's when this draft became a destitute because it cannot and it will not have a sponsor if it doesn't suit the dress and the color he wants the draft to look like. Plain, old and simple.
Now, what do you make of the role of the if you look at how it all played out at the National Assembly, you have MPs that are largely opposition. I mean, but in as much as they are opposition, you have some that voted for the draft, while you have others that voted against the draft. But the entire time you have MPs that are, I mean, independent MPs that are purely there to defend whatever is President Barrow's interest, if you like. And these are the MPs these are the MPs that coalesced to ensure that this thing is not doesn't succeed. But not just that, what also happened is that there was a problem with this charter. That's the argument. This document was a faulty one. They clearly could not agree with the fact that the way and manner it was cobbled did not serve the interests, or if someone would call it the rights of the president.
Well, then there must have been a dereliction of duty by the MPs. The CRC Act was brought to life by them creating the Act, right? And once the Act was created, it called for a framework, how the Constitution will be. That's where the consultation started. They created thematic themes and groups, not groups, but thematic themes for people to talk about, including the MPs. They had bilateral consultations with all arms of government. They created a draft, and after the draft, they created a review period, which any MP who happened to have a problem with the draft can do that. After that, after the review, it was brought to the Assembly. And at the Assembly, the role of politicians, especially lawmakers, is to build consensus through compromise. So they have failed Gambia. They have failed the citizenry because we haven't been given a chance to say what we think about the document. And mind you, the MPs are nothing but mere proxies of the people. What they do there is not to serve what they think, but to serve the aspirations and expectations of the people they represent. Hence, the reason we call it the People's House.
But don't you also think that the people also give the MPs a lot of problems? This idea of, I don't know where you stand on this, but this idea of the MPs had no right to touch anything in terms of, because clearly the MPs wanted to push for certain amendments, certain changes in the document. But there was this whole claim out there that they had no right to touch this document. Don't you think that also made things a little problematic for the MPs?
I'm not a legal mind, but if you want to change something, you need to first qualify it. Is it an entrenched clause that you want to touch, or is it just an ordinary clause? If it's an ordinary clause, yes, the MPs can. But if it's something that's entrenched, we, the people, reign supreme. Hence, we are a republic, and that must be respected. The rights of us, the polity, must be respected by those that we send. 2 million Gambians cannot sit inside the assembly, and that's why we divide our country into constituents and have people to represent our interests. But in this case, I believe the greater good's interest has been derailed. I believe the greater good's interest has been made an orphan.
The one stakeholder, I mean, that has come under heavy bashing, heavy criticism is the Constitutional Review Commission. They were the people that are tasked to come up with this document. They came up with it, and clearly people are not impressed. They think that they didn't do a good job, and this is why it failed. What do you make of their role? Do you think they did a good job?
Well, I think, once again, dereliction of duty. The people who created the act put safeguards on who should be chosen. We went through a process, went through a vetting, went through nominations and appointment. We cannot wait until the 11th hour and start questioning, one, the integrity or the competence of the people in there. It's a total failure, and wherever there is failure, there has to be accountability. Gambians as a whole, we have a collective responsibility. In our collective responsibility, we have individual accountability. And in this individual accountability, the parliament plays a big role. My problem with it is the president is the sponsor-in-chief of this document. It's his administration. So when this document fails at parliament, it's a failure on him. What he should have done if he believed in the document was at the 11th hour have a national address to state his position without ambiguity to the public, and that would have put pressure on the people who voted no. But silence to me is consent, and the president has clearly in explicit terms shown us where his interests lied. And not only that, immediately after that, we have seen his party militants jubilating for the failure of this document. That means our transition is dead, and therefore Gambia need to regroup. Make sure election 2021 will be the beginning of a transition to the new Gambia we wanted. Because the new Gambia we wanted the economic gangsters to be penalized. We wanted the criminal enterprise in uniform to be penalized. Oh no, what did we get? The economic gangsters and the criminal enterprise in uniform are today at the helm of government, at the nerve center of where decisions are made, and it's a mockery to justice and what we collectively fought for and aspired post December 4th, 2016.
And what do you make of the president's eerie silence? I mean, this happened, massive development. The president, what we've seen, is been busy moving around the country. I've been launching either surveying or flagging off or inaugurating projects. But there cannot be a more important project than this one. But what we have seen is that the president has not said a word about it, even to seize that one particular moment to, address this issue. He has not done that. What do you make of that?
Politics is the second oldest profession apart from prostitution. But in as much as it's the second oldest profession, it has courage of conviction and morality as its guiding principle and compass. The president, in my view, has opted for self-preservation and self-perpetuation. And in so doing, he has put self over the interests of the greater good. His supporters may say that's not the case. But if you're looking at everything that has happened to date, height of a pandemic, the Gambia having the highest per capita in terms of mortality, the Gambia having the highest per capita in terms of infection in this sub-region, and you look at the amounts of monies they have spent in your name and my name and the name of kids that are yet unborn, shows that the interest is not the greater good but personal perpetuation.
Personal perpetuation. Now, what we have also seen is that the government wants, at least we have seen signs of political will. You may not entirely agree with this. The claim is that, okay, the president and his cabinet ministers are all complicit in this act. Some would call it treasonous. I hear some people commenting saying it's treasonous. But what I want to ask is, because clearly the justice minister, I spoke with him today, and what he told me was that they are trying to push hard to come up with a way of ensuring that this thing goes back to parliament. They want to do this by way of appointing an independent body. I don't know what you really make of that, because
what law is he using to appoint that independent body? Who gives him that mandate?
Myself, I'm a little confused, because you have the CRC. There cannot be a more independent body than the CRC. Where the CRC failed, what other independent body would
the
come?
The CRC didn't fail. The sponsors of the transition process, meaning the executive, because they are the drivers of Gambia's transition process. They haven't embraced the instrument of the creation of CRC and the outcome and the offshoot of what CRC has created. They haven't endorsed and nurtured it. But back to your question. You said the cabinet. I cannot blame the cabinet. The cabinet are mere proxies of the president who are not appointed or directly responsible to the polity. We elected a president and members of parliament. So therefore, our scrutiny as the polity, the people, is back to those people. If those people do bad, the cabinet, it will tell on the president, and we will punish the president if we feel or see fit. So that's the president's problem. That's why people serve at his will and his caprices.
So now they want to press ahead and find time, because they are saying it's still possible. We have about what 14 months to elections. It's still possible that it goes back. But the fact is that is clearly a lack of consensus. That is why this draft constitution failed. Now they want to ensure that there is consensus the next time it goes to parliament, and they want to do this by way of getting a body of independent, people to really spearhead that. But what I'm saying is, what do you make of that? The fact that that is the approach that they want to take, because clearly we have seen the pressure, we have seen the European Union not clearly impressed, not clearly.
No one is clearly impressed.
Not impressed at all, and that kind of like would really put pressure on the government to deliver on this the next time. But do you really feel that this approach is good at all?
Well, you made mention of one word: consensus. Consensus building comes with good faith. If we are serious about this constitution, we need to put personalities outside of it. We don't make a constitution to tailor-make or suit a person. We make a constitution to withstand the test of time and give Gambians a suitable social contract that will make us live together as a people with a collective destiny, and to be our brothers and sisters keepers, so that we have a national identity instead of the tribal nuances and other things we have been seeing. So if we want consensus, let us forget about an individual's interest and look at the greater good's interest. And if the president is serious, anyone who is supporting this president, if they are serious and they have the courage of conviction and a little bit of conscience, the president and his men should know, and his minions should know, that 2 terms is the basic foundation of any good governance. This current constitution accords him, the draft accords him 2 terms. Why are they thinking of 3 terms? It means he is a violator of good governance architecture and also the principle of having good governance. Why should he even think that if it's not retroactive, I cannot have 3 terms? That is not only folly and foolhardy, but it is selfish.
It is selfish. Now, clearly, it's not just the... Well, I mean, one MP who spoke to the media, and what he said, clearly, an ardent support of the president, and what he said was, the CRC was, was told what they should put in this charter. That is to ensure...
Who told CRC that?
They made their suggestions.
But they are a minority in the grand scheme of things. 2 million Gambians. They cannot dictate.
So you mean the president and his group?
Look, the president is an ordinary Gambian with the privilege that has been accorded to him by you and me electing him in office, but that doesn't make him superior to you. He is first among equals. Every Gambian has the same power and right under our constitution. He only happens to have a privilege to serve us, and that privilege doesn't translate to power and dominion over you or me. That has to be made known. That's why a few days ago, when I read from your newspaper that the president is giving, and I said, where are the journalists, including Fatu Network? You guys need to check that. That's a fact check, and it's a lie, and it needs to be put to check. The president cannot give what he doesn't own. Yes. This is our commonwealth and ours. Yes. The government of the Gambia is gifting to vulnerable families in our society. So it's us helping the weaker ones, and that is the social contract we want. The president cannot give Gambians.
Okay, and you needed that to be fact checked. We will see. But then I think that even in America, when they were giving these relief checks to citizens, Trump would come out and say, "I'm giving American money."
No.
So really,
Donald Trump signed the checks. No.
Signs the checks.
Look. There is a duty. The journalists have a duty of care.
Yes.
The duty of care is to make sure that information going out to the public is filtered and make sure that there is no ambiguity and it's not distorted. The utterances of the president distorts the fact, and what it does, it makes you and me not equitable, because it's your headline. I am going by your headline. The president is giving. The government is the government means we the people. We constitute government. The president is just one part of government.
Yes.
So it's the entire government, the legislature, the judiciary, the executive are giving. So it is the country that's giving to its people. When you say the president, you have misplaced and you have misrepresented
do you know
the
that
facts.
that is a direct quote. The president said, "I will give every Gambian this money."
I will. My government will give.
He said, "I will."
My government will give. I will respectfully bow down for him and say, "Thank you, Mr. President."
Yes.
I will give. I will say, "Mr. President, you cannot give me what you don't own."
Yes.
If he give me his personal monies, I don't have a problem. But what he was giving and gifting to Gambian is our commonwealth. So let it be made clear.
And also, I think one thing that was really explained to the people. I've seen political commentators coming out to say that the president didn't speak the truth, because the money, in fact, is not his money. It was money that was given to the government by the World Bank.
Regardless of who gives us, the resources belong to the people, because it is put into our consolidated revenue fund for further expenditure. So it's the people's money in the people's coffer. So when he dipped in the personal cookie jar of the Gambia, he is not giving us. We are gifting ourselves through our government. So when he said, "My government, our government, the government," I will say, "Thank you." When he say, "I,"
I think the president personalized it to say, "I am giving you this."
Political gains. The president was on an open political season, free for all to see. And mind you, he has opened the political season for the rest of the year, albeit in the middle of a pandemic.
How did he do that?
Well, you look at the crowds around him. Who is going to stop any party when they want to congregate? You see, there has to be one thing.
Still here.
Well, if a law is not enforced,
yes,
the assumption is the law doesn't exist. The law doesn't discriminate whether it's the president or any other group. It says we cannot congregate. And what we saw was congregation at its best definition. So what's good for the goose is equally good for the gander, but maybe other political actors and players and parties are more responsible than what we have seen with our government amidst the pandemic, and they will exercise restraint, but we still need to call it out and say, "Mr. President and team, it's good to inaugurate a road, but you don't need an entourage to go there. Or defer it for another time." But he was on a political expedition where at the heartland of his hometown and home region. Fine, I don't have a problem, but this is not the time, period.
Do you think the president is doing a Donald Trump, going about, not really caring if people wear a face mask or not, or observe social distancing or not? Whatever happens, he will go ahead and hold outdoor meetings.
In all fairness, I don't think, I will not even equate him to Donald Trump. That will be an insult to him.
Yeah.
But notwithstanding, he needs to be fair to his conscience. He needs to be fair with his country. And he needs to make sure that, yes, I am eligible, because there are two things here. There is a moral question and a legal question. He has failed the moral question of serving past the 3 years. So that is with his conscience and his God. But legally, the supremacy of our constitution, which I believe has accorded him the right to be here for 5 years. So now there is two things. Him having a legal mandate to continue, and him flouting a contract he has with me. For me, he is not a man of his word. because he has flipped. But back to this campaign, he has the right. But this is not the time. And not only for him, but any other political person or entity.
To be fair to the president, what he said, someone might also argue that makes perfect sense. What he said was, this coronavirus is here to stay. It's not going away.
I agree.
And what he told his advisors and ministers is that we cannot just sit in our offices and not do nothing. We have to go out there.
Talk is cheap.
That is what he said.
Talk is cheap. If he believes in what he said, the first thing he should have done is to open the schools. The second thing he should have done is to open up the economy. Then the third thing, he then be going out there to follow up in his campaign. I would have believed that the statements he made, sequential. The first sequential action this government needed to take is to open up the schools.
What if you don't have a game plan?
Well, then if you don't have a game plan, prioritize your priorities. Before you go out on a campaign, make sure that Gambian kids are not suffering by not having lectures. You see, in life, everything is a priority. And what we have seen, the president has prioritized his personal objectives. And the greater good objectives are secondary. Because the primary thing, if I were the president of this republic and I made a pronouncement that corona is here to stay, the first thing I will make sure is life goes back to normal, and first for the kids of this country. Secondly, the economy of the country. Third, the social activities where politics and politicking falls.
Okay, so now that's also clear. But what we have seen is that the president is minded to grow his backbone politically, and he will continue, as he said, to embark upon more infrastructural projects. That is what he said. And he said the talkers, his critics, he said the talkers can't continue talking, but he will continue doing the work.
More power to the president, more grease to the president. But I want to tell him one thing and remind him that gratitude starts with appreciating those that sacrifice to make you a president. And it was us who, lying under the hot sun, went out, bestowed our trust on an unknown person, hoping for a better and a brighter Gambia for all of us. So we are not against him, but we are against him for reneging on the obligation and contract he had with us. That political contract is what I happen to have a problem with him. But as a person, I love you, Mr. President. As a person, you are not my enemy. But as someone I have bestowed my trust on, you have failed me and failed me woefully.
How about, because also the president was in the middle of his tour when he decided to reshuffle the pack. What we have seen is fired some ministers, quickly dumped them in the foreign service, or if you like, consulted them, and then brought in this. But what we've seen is one of the people that was hired turned down the job. Were you aware of that?
You know, Nyang Jai doesn't mince his words. I am very pleased with the president's termination of the Minister of Trade.
Lamin Job, why?
I don't even know Lamin Job, but I am a person who goes by statistics and data.
That's an economist, of course.
Here is my problem, and the reason why I believe he made two critical decisions that were good: the youth ministry and the trade ministry. Gambia has suffered from March, and most likely it will take Gambia 36 months to have a turnaround for the plummeting economy we have had since March. And key to that is a buoyant and vibrant trade sector. And I'm sorry to say, I don't know the minister who was there, but for me, in my books, he wasn't fit for purpose. Now, the mere fact that the president has seen a problem there and tried to fix it, I say thank you, Mr. President, because when you fix it, you're fixing all of us, our pockets. So what he did...
But now, why would you fire your trade minister when you don't have one? Because the guy he took there said no to the job. What do you have to say about that?
Well,
Bagari is saying he's not going there.
Once again,
doesn't want the job.
The president needs to get better advisors. You see, the president should be executing, and he must have people too close to him that he shares his plans with, and they give him the best advice or alternatives. The issue is not about the individual Bakari, but the issue is the rule of law. The president has no right, based on the Central Bank Act, which promotes monetary independence and makes sure that even the fiscal authorities, the Ministry of Finance, cannot meddle with monetary operations. Therefore, the president must have known what are the triggers to move someone if I want to move them. So two things need to happen. Bakari must be willing and ready to move. Then a tribunal will not be set up. But if you set up a tribunal, you need 3 triggers.
Of course.
1 is that the bank is bankrupt. 2, he happens to have a criminal record and more so a felony. 3rd, he has to be incapacitated and cannot carry out his functions. So someone must have told this to the president. It's a rookie mistake at that level, the highest apex in the country. Such a thing should not and must not happen. And in any other country, heads would have been rolling.
But
because the president should not.
Why is all these things proving too tricky for the president? Because clearly what we have seen in the, for example, Yakubu Jere case, it happened at some point the president lost that battle. And now this man is also coming out to rely on a law to say that, hey, you have no right to remove me from my role.
I am an economist and I believe in value. If you have a $5 C advisor, you get a $5 C advice. If you have a $1 million C advisor, you get a $1 million C advice.
What are you trying to suggest?
Well, I'm sorry, the president has underrated and underachieving advisors. No offense, it's not personal, but we need to call a spade a spade. The so-called people I see touted as presidential advisors, I don't think they can take this country forward by giving the president good, sound advice.
How about when this move at all is not based upon the advice of any of the advisors? It's the president who decided to take this decision.
Well, the buck stops at him and it's his responsibility. Mind you, the Gambia didn't vote for an advisor. The Gambia didn't vote for a vice president. The Gambia didn't vote for a minister or a PS. If everything goes well with those people, kudos and the claps goes to the president. If it fails equally, it goes to him and him alone. That's why I said we have a collective responsibility and an individual accountability, and the president must be accountable for things that fall under his purview and remit.
Sanyang, back to the draft constitution. What do you want now? Do you want it to come back to parliament, or do you want us to stick? I mean, is it all over for you? We just go by the 1997. What would you want? What would you prefer?
Well, Gambians who are clapping today are clapping for their misery and downfall. And ignorance is the problem in this country. If 1997 wasn't problematic, we wouldn't ask for a new constitution. Just like the Americans will say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But it was broke. Why? It was overly amended and it was skewed to fit a personal purpose. Yes. I will just go back to electioneering tools. The IEC, we want a country of proportional representation. How on earth can we have Combo South and we only have few representatives out of Combo South, and Combo South is the Florida, Pennsylvania, and California of the Gambia. If you cannot win Combo South, you cannot be there. You look at Fonyi, 5 constituents with this much population. Serekunda West or East is more than basically the whole of Fonyi. And how many seats do they have at the parliament? So the people who are clapping today are clapping their downfall because they don't understand the grand scheme of things. Why? We have personalized an instrument that would have been the cause and the foundation of a good social contract for us Gambians, so that we can have equity, we can have fairness, and we can have justice for all, irrespective of your social orientation, your economic orientation, or your regional orientation. And that's what we have killed. Do I want it back? Sooner or later, it's going to come back. That's why I am saying that 2021 will be the beginning of a transition to usher in a new Gambia.
2021. What
Yes.
are you seeing in 2021? What are you seeing when you go to bed? What do you see?
What I want and what I see are two different things. If wishes were horses, all beggars be riding.
Yes.
What I want, yes, because the Janneh Commission has been buried and dealt a blow. Yesterday, I saw a document from Sierra Leone, and it has shown the mockery and the disregard and indifference to the good rule of law that Gambia should have abided by. Everyone who has been afflicted by the commission in Sierra Leone have been told to step aside. Current serving functionaries.
They've all been fired, yes.
Well, relieved.
Relieved
Yes.
is fired. That's
So,
a diplomatic word.
if the Gambia can give portfolios to people who are deemed to be known economic violators and physical violators and still let them continue, it means our transition agenda is just a lip service but not a reality. So what do I want is I want a better Gambia. What do I see? I've seen a fragmented society that hasn't converged to build a new country. And for the simple reason that the political class haven't driven the transition agenda collectively, not only the president, collectively. Because when we signed on the dotted lines in the polling booth that I signed for a group. Everyone has ditched that group and have left it with one person, and he's doing whatever he wants. So the collective failure is the collective failure of the political class. Everyone who bankrolled this current president have failed Gambians, and they have to pay for that price.
Nyanjai, commentator, economist, thank you for coming on the show.
Pleasure's all mine.
Thank you. That's
right.
Nyanjai there. So, but before you leave the studio, we have a report. The Christian community also held a press conference today to state their opinion on the rejected draft constitution. The Christian community clearly is not happy. We'll bring you an excerpt of the statement that was read by top bishop Yao Odiko.
Constructive efforts deployed to draw the attention of the Constitutional Review Commissioners to the above sadly fell on deaf ears. The deafening silence of several very highly placed officials and our fellow Gambian brothers and sisters to the concerns we have repeatedly raised in our petition to the President, in our courtesy calls to government officials, including the Chief Justice and former Attorney General, on radio and TV, and in our press conference and press releases, has been read as a message that Christian rights do not matter. We are concerned that the proposals of specific interest groups were adopted whilst the genuine concerns of others were ignored. While strengthening key areas under the executive and legislative arms of government, under the judiciary, a divisive legal framework was introduced that would completely undermine the common law system of law that has served the Gambian people since 1970 and destroy the peaceful and harmonious relationship that has existed in the Gambia between Christians and Muslims up to date. Contrary to the express provisions of Section 6 of the CRC Act 2017, provisions were introduced which A, restrict the fundamental human rights of Gambians. B, fail to safeguard the Gambians' continued existence as a secular state, but rather a state where Sharia law has been amplified and in which some faiths may be unfairly treated. C. Discouraging national cohesion and unity, and rather encouraging religious intolerance. The Gambia has gone into the annals of history because of the former Minister of Justice's courage to fight and protect the rights of a Muslim minority group, the Rohingyas, in Myanmar. It is therefore reasonable to expect our government to manifest that same spirit of love and concerns for minority rights in our beloved nation, the Gambia. As Christians, our hope for our homeland is that we will build a Gambia where there is a place for every Gambian, irrespective of his or her belief or ethno-linguistic background. Our desire is that any new constitution would safeguard the future of all Gambians and protect the rights of all citizens. It remains our steadfast view that religion must not divide us. We are therefore committed to preserving our heritage of harmonious interfaith relationship among our diverse people. We would use this opportunity to sincerely thank all those who championed the cause of the Gambia's common good during this process, including our Muslim allies who joined our interfaith campaign. As we continue to strive for peace and harmony in our nation, the Gambia, may we hold firm to the solemn words of our national anthem. Let justice guide our action towards the common good, and join our diverse people to prove man's brotherhood.
Watanbe, brought to you by Afrisa.
Be part of the amazing conversations with Gambia's greatest minds and personalities. Get ready to be entertained, inspired, and motivated on the Watanbe platform. Plus, stand a chance of winning the shopping of your life. Call or SMS 1010 for $3 is only to win cash prizes and a free shopping spree.
Join Watanbe live on GRTS and social media on Mondays and Fridays at 9 p.m. Kailin New Watan.
Where AfriCell goes, nobody dares to follow.
So clearing and forwarding agents have also begun a strike. But what are they striking about? Jaka Sise Jete tells us more.
Hello there, I am Jaka Sise Jete and we're currently here in Banjul at the Marks Line headquarters as members from the Clearing and Forwarding Agency embark on a sit-down strike due to numerous issues. Now, this Clearing and Forwarding Agency is responsible for clearing of goods and services coming in and out of the country. Now, let's see what is the motive behind this strike.
Our strike, let me introduce what services we render for us. We are registered agents, licensed agents, what we call freight forwarders or clearing and forwarding agencies. We are registered by the Gambia Revenue Authority, given license to operate, act on behalf of customers for the clearing processes of goods and services. Yes, our presence here for the past 48 hours, we have issues with Marks Line, specifically, which is a household shipping line agency in the Gambia. And over the years, over the period, they have introduced certain policies. Some are not good and some are definitely not acceptable. After even consulting with sister countries here, we have realized that those services are not definitely rendered in those countries. And why the Gambia? Why it's applying in the Gambia? Principle of those things that they have introduced here is the deposit system. One of the very many things that we have been pursuing with them is the issue of deposits. They have introduced, before, we used to come, you pay cash, you are refunded cash. But over the time, they said they have changed system. That is, when you pay in cash, you will have to wait and be paid in check.
After 2 days.
After 2 days. And even after that 2 days, it went beyond 2 days. Okay, and definitely it's down to norm. Once I pay my container, I release it from the shipping line and it discharged, return back to the port in good condition. That very spot, my money should be reimbursed to me because that was what happened. I paid, and of course I must be refunded on time. But over the years, they have said, a lot of things have changed globally, evolution taking place here and there, but that is not favoring us. When you release your container, it takes you like others 3 months. Recently, what have been even triggered this sit-down strike we have here with them is because some of our members have discharged their containers for over 6 months, 3 months, 2 months, 1 month, so on and so forth. They cannot still have their money back as they have paid for their deposit services. And where also they are introducing the late payment of invoices. If you have any cargo to clear with them, you come to Maxline, you collect invoice. If you come back to pay for the invoice, they will charge you a $50, which they intend to introduce rather, and which we are also trying to say, no, it's not good, because once that is done, the consumer will be the person to pay for the price, because the businessman will never operate to lose. Those charges will reflect on the charges that they are going to do at the end of the day, which will be consumed by the consumers.
Is there any channel, let's say, like a government regulatory body that is supposed to be handling things like that?
Very good. Okay, in 2017-18, we wrote a letter to the Ministry of Trade, Industry, Regional Employment, a 7-page report which entails all the activities, particularly with what Maxline is doing to us, but we have not heard from them. So we've engaged the Chamber of Commerce. Unfortunately, it coincided with the COVID-19, meetings were not being able to be held, so we can engage both parties. Now, we believe we have been pushed to the wall. The only way we can do is to invite reference to the 7-page report that we have written to, and make sure Maxline act on those things, because it was written to the Ministry of Trade, copied to Maxline. So we feel the key player to our response is the Maxline. We invited the ministry as they are the line ministry for that, but we don't hear from them. We went to the Chamber of Commerce, just like I told you. We've been affected by the corona to further engage. But now that deposits are definitely been delayed, people cannot access their deposit. For the past 6 months, our members, they get their pay through this deposit charges that has been lodged at the Maxline.
You've heard what members from the clearing and forwarding agencies had to say. We have, however, tried to engage officials from the Maxline headquarters, but to no avail. Reporting for the Fatu Network News Review, Jaka CCJT. Hello there, I am Jaka.
Very well, that will bring us to the end of today's show. We'll be back tomorrow. Until then, goodbye.